Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 249 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota, having just returned from delivering a program hosted by the Toledo Fire Department. This program was on Saturday, which was also the 5th anniversary of a double line-of-duty death incident in Toledo that killed Steve Machinsky and Jim Dickman. I would also like to thank Mark Briggs and the command staff of the Toledo, Ohio Fire Department for hosting this program and to say what an honor it was to be chosen to be the presenter for your training event and to honor your fallen brothers. Before I get into today's feature segment, I want to take a moment to give another shout out to the Fire Rescue Show podcast and its host, a young man named Jared. I did an interview for his podcast 2 weeks ago. This young man is quite passionate about the fire service, and he is one terrific interviewer. In fact, it was a question that Jared asked me during his interview that I couldn't answer that inspired the topic for last week's show. He asked me, what are the top 10 near-miss interviews that you've conducted? Well, I knew which ones were my personal favorites, but I hadn't really looked to see which ones were the most downloaded. So that's what I did, and last week's episode covered the top 10 most downloaded near-miss interviews. Check out and subscribe to Jared's podcast, The Fire Rescue Show, on iTunes. Last week I also was a guest on the 5 Alarm Task Force podcast. Thank you, Steve Green, for reaching out to me and giving me the opportunity to share the situational awareness message with your listeners. Coming up this week, I'm also going to be interviewing a young man who was a civilian responder and one of the first on the scene at the Amtrak train derailment on December 18th, 2017, just south of Seattle. If you want to learn more about that incident, you may want to go back and listen to episode 192, where I interviewed Larry Creekmore, one of the initial response command officers on the scene of the train derailment. And then I'll be interviewing this civilian who was one of the first civilians on the scene before any of the first responders. Before I start the feature segment, I have a confession to make. As I was simulcasting this episode that you're about to watch and listen to, on Facebook Live, I forgot to click the record button on the Zoom dashboard. So you'll be able to watch the Facebook Live video that takes us all the way up to the point of the Zoom video. And then when the Zoom video starts, I'll stop the Facebook Live video. This is a long interview, and I didn't want to cut it off because they were sharing such incredible experiences and lessons learned. So I'm going to share this over the course of 3 episodes. So for now, let's jump into the feature segment, part 1, an interview that contains some amazing lessons with German Township Incident Commander Deavron Farmer, complemented with contributions from longtime German Township Fire Chief, now retired, John Buckman. Okay, I'd like to introduce my two guests now. I have Deavron Farmer, a firefighter with the German Township Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana, and John Buckman, a longtime friend, what I would call my first and probably most valuable mentor in the fire service. And John had served as the fire chief of the German Township Fire Department for many, many years. And gentlemen, I'm really glad to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rich. Glad we can be here. Appreciate the opportunity. As you mentioned, my name's Deavron Farmer. I've been with the German Township Fire Department for over 30 years. I believe this is actually the start of my 31st year. So I've been able to have John Buckman as my friend for that whole time too, and my mentor.
Nice.
So I've held positions from firefighter, first responder, lieutenant, captain, and for quite a few years, division chief, chief of training, and a small role as public information officer for a while. And as much as the ebb and flow is, with life and everything in general, I've gotten busier with work and taken more of just a firefighter role, and let some of the younger talent that's working its way up through the ranks take some of those roles and positions. So still make as many runs as I can, as often as possible, and still love to make the run and answer the bell and do the training as well.
Well, thank you, Deavron, for agreeing to do the interview. I get a lot of people that tell me about near misses, but I don't have a whole bunch of them that have the courage to stand up and put themselves in front of a camera and tell their story. So for that, I'm very appreciative. Good morning, John.
Morning, Rich. Thank you both of you for those kind words. You both have far exceeded all of our expectations. I was pretty excited when Rich got his PhD, maybe more excited than he was. Of course, he's probably looking at the debt he had. I was just looking at, hey, I know a guy who used to be just a plain old Joe, now he's a doctor. And Deavron, in his tenure as a division chief, he didn't play up enough his importance of being the training officer and developing an excellent training program that helped us over many events save our lives as well as the lives of the public. My role at the fire department now is I am the retired fire chief. I like being the retired fire chief. I have opinions, but the only one that gets my opinion is the fire chief. I do not get involved in the politics of running an organization. I am very busy doing other things. I retired as state training director about 9 months ago here in Indiana. I am now the director of government outreach and regional operations for IamResponding.com. I still do work with the International Association of Fire Chiefs. So it's a good opportunity to be here and as you said, Rich, to share our experience. Because of all the times that we're out there doing our job, very seldom do we ever actually have the ultimate threat to our existence. And on this day, as Deavron will tell you a little bit later, some of his mental anguish as he was experiencing this event. So I'm excited to be here. I will tell you a little bit about the German Township Fire Department. We're about 55 years old. I guess we're 59 years old, coming up on 60. We are primarily a volunteer fire department. We have about 30 active volunteers. We have paid people during the day, basically from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., 2 people on duty. On this day, we actually had 4 people on duty, which is unusual because 2 volunteers were just hanging out. But we are a home response fire department. We respond from home. The volunteers hear their pagers and get up and go. We run 2 fire stations. We have 2 engines, a tanker, 2 rescue squads, a brush rig, and a couple command vehicles. And now we actually have added a 3rd engine. So Deavron is going to talk about the response and those kind of things. So again, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, good. Glad to have you. So tell us about that day, Deavron.
Well, it was kind of interesting. You know, it's hard to believe we've already passed the 1-year anniversary because it is still so vivid in my memory. Was November 27th of 17. I was actually at work. I work north of Evansville, probably 10 or 15 miles for a local plastics company where I work. And as my normal routine at lunchtime, I'll usually run into town to run some errands and do some various things over the lunch hour. I was coming down from my office. I was coming into town down a street that kind of is our southern border for our response district. And as I'm driving down the road, I heard the pager go off and I heard the run come in. Would have been about right at noon, about 2 minutes after noon, the run came in as a possible working house fire. And so I'm kind of listening to the dispatch, and she calls out the lineup. And I'm looking at the street address from where I'm at and where the run's coming in. I thought, you know, I'm just a few minutes away from there. I'm not going to be first on scene, but I can go during my lunch break and help hump hose. Is really what I had in my mind. I knew the daytime crew already had the engine en route. I could hear that from the radio traffic, and I thought I could just kind of do some quick support work, right, for some initial attack. And at this point, we didn't have anybody on scene to give us what the actual size up was at that point. But it was reported as a possible house fire.
Tell me a little bit more about, if you can remember any of the details about how the call came in. What did dispatch say as far as, you know, caller has reported or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and we found out some facts, you know, of course, after the fact, but certainly the initial call came in as possible house fire. Reporter was stating that the eaves of his house were on fire. More importantly, we found out later the gutters. And so it had been, I guess we found out later, it had actually started with a leaf fire. He was raking leaves, had the leaves on fire out in his yard. The leaves then caught leaves that were in the roof along the gutters and actually started the gutters on fire, and then it kind of progressed from there. So it was really dispatched as just a house fire. Dispatch came after the initial dispatch at 12:02. They came back 3 minutes later with an update that said flames visible from the eaves.
One of the other things we found out as a result of the investigation was afterwards the homeowner, when he saw the smoke, he was raking leaves, and as he saw the smoke, instead of him picking up his cell phone and dialing 911, he went to get a garden hose to try to put it out himself. By the time he got the garden hose, got the ladder, and got up on the ladder, he realizes it's not just leaves in the gutter, it's now transmitted fire into the attic space.
Yeah. So we went from a dispatch at 12:02 of possible house fire, 12:05 flames visible from the eaves, and then by 12:06, dispatch, based off the information they were getting from the caller, dispatch actually called it a working house fire or working fire. So our first arrival, that first due engine, was on scene at 12:09.
When dispatch or the incident commander or anybody declares a working fire, the policy in this county is that you automatically start a move-up system. You automatically start moving mutual aid companies into the scene, as well as to do standby in the stations. So that way you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till you get there. You're getting multiple calls. The dispatcher's getting a good picture. So they declared it, and that was put into play immediately.
Yeah.
So what kind of resources are we talking about here, John? As far as the you know, what happens automatically? Is that, you know, a certain number of engines, or, you know, kind of unpackage that a little bit for those who may not have a system like that?
Well, you would get a minimum of 2 engines. If you, with the working fire, if you go ahead and say you make it a second alarm, then you would get 2 engines, maybe 3 engines. Just depends on what location it is. In German Township, we have about 50% of the area has hydrants and 50% does not. So you get a larger response on a working fire if it's in a non-hydrated area.
Okay, so was this house in or not in a hydrant area?
It was in a non-hydrant area.
Okay, so you're going to get some tankers or what some might call tenders on the response as well?
Right. The closest due response came with an engine was probably about 4 miles away, and they had 3 people on that engine that day.
Okay, and were they staffed and stationed, or did they have to come from home and turn out from like that?
On that day, they staffed during the day as well. At that point in time, they were staffing during the day, and so they responded immediately.
Okay, and then Deavron, your first arriving piece at 12:09, that was an engine.
Yeah, that was the first. That was the first arriving engine on scene. Yeah.
Engine what number?
Engine 9.
Engine 9. And what was the staffing on engine 9?
That was the day we had 4 on board.
4 on duty. 4 on board.
Normally during the day at noon, you would have had the 2, the 2 paid guys, but there were volunteers that happened to be at the station that day as well. All 4 of them hopped on the truck and went en route.
And was there an officer on that engine?
That would have been Nick. Right? Yeah. So captain, captain on board as well.
Okay. All right.
Our engines are a little, I'll say, unique in that because of the hydrant and not unhydrated area, we had 2,400 gallons of water on that first due engine. So it's not the standard 750 or 1,000 gallons of water on an engine. The other thing that this fire did to us, which was unusual, in that coming in from the north, the driveway, instead of it going at a 90-degree angle off the road, it basically turned and went back north. So we were not able to get in the driveway. So the first thing they had to do was hand stretch about 200 feet of 2.5-inch hose and wire it off to 1 3/4 because we did not have access to the driveway.
Whoa. All right, so your vehicles had to stay out on the main roadway, and then they were hand-laid lines in from there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unusual, but we had another, we had a firefighter who used to be a firefighter here, Brian, who showed up and said it was the fastest he ever saw that being deployed and hooked up, and there were no problems getting it applied.
Mm-hmm. And now, Deavron, were you there ahead of the first engine or after them?
I was actually there after. Due to where my office is located, I had a bit of a drive time, so I'm driving down the road, and I'm kind of listening to the traffic play out. I'm hearing them arrive. I hear them say smoke showing, and so as I'm driving, I'm trying to look for the header. Right, I know the general geographic area where I'm going, and I'm not seeing working house fire kind of header coming off of it. I'm starting to see some smoke. I'm using that as sort of a guide to where I'm going, and for guys that've been on a long time, it kind of looks like a grass fire kind of smoke, right? I've got a light haze. I can see it, but I picture working fire. This big black header coming up and being able to see it. So as I get closer, and that was some of the lessons learned on this thing. This accelerated from being a simple leaf fire to something that it just accelerated so quickly. So by the time I get on scene, I see the crew advancing the 2.5 that they're going to Y out into an 1 3/4. I'm parking my vehicle. I'm getting my gear on. Again, my still thinking I'm just going to kind of help hump hose, since obviously we've got quite a bit of it out now. The captain comes to me and says, "Here's a radio, you take command," because he's going to run the engine while the crew advances the hose line. And so as he hands me the radio and says, "You've got command," I then establish command with dispatch at like 12:16. So at 12:16, I'm on scene, dressed, radio in hand. There's been a lot of things happening before that, but at 12:16, it becomes my scene.
One of the things that, again, afterwards, getting the facts together, the first due engine arrived in 7 minutes. Deavron transferred command in 13 minutes. So basically, the first due company was on scene for about 6 minutes with a commander at the company level. And then it took Deavron about 2 minutes and 42 seconds to complete his 360. We found out that the first due company did not complete a 360. They did about a 280. They got around about 2/3 of the building and then decided, we're going offensive, we're going in the front door, and we're going to take action.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when it just, everything started to accelerate at that point. So I'm handed the radio, I assume command, and as John pointed out, the very first thing I do is a 360. I start from the A side, and I actually went around D to C to B. My crew was already in. I could see the 1 3/4 line in the front door. And as I'm walking around, I'm just kind of reading the smoke, and I'm looking at this, and we're starting to have some conversations via radio. Interior crew I call command. They call me and ask for some pike poles and flashlights. And we have the audio from dispatch. I cleared them on pike poles and flashlights. And Rich, as I'm walking around this thing, the smoke is changing just within that 2-minute walk around. The smoke is changing just so rapidly. It's gone from being light and wispy to being thick and heavy. It's coming out of the eaves of the house, and it's falling as it comes out, and it's just getting soupier and thicker. And just the hair on the back of my neck starting to stand up. I'm like, the interior conditions are changing like second by second. They're really going fast.
Yeah, let me pause you here for just 1 second, if you don't mind. You said you have the audio. Do you guys have the audio there? Like, you could play it?
I'll have to see.
Okay. I was just wondering if you did, because if you did and you wanted to play it, you could play it and pause it and then talk us through what was happening as the audio was playing out. Deavron, do you remember? Did you send me the audio for that?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah. Okay. So let me look and see if I might have it.
We actually did a compressed version, which is kind of nice. It takes out all of the dead air, so it makes the traffic go, it sounds faster than it truly is because there's, time sequence in there. But when you have the pauses removed, it makes for a nice compressed audio file.
Okay. And then are you thinking that you had sent me the compressed version? Oh, I do have it. I do have it. So if you have it, you can stop it where you want. If I play
right now, Rich. So if you got it,
okay. So Deavron, let me know when you want me to play it, and if you want me to stop it along the way, where you want me to stop it, because I think hearing some of the traffic might actually be, add some value to what it was like there. So I have it queued up here. So you just let me know when to start it and when to stop it.
Let me go back over the timeline before we do that.
Sure.
I think that's relevant. So we have a dispatch. We have the first 2 engines on scene in 7 minutes. Deavron is on scene in 13 minutes. He then does his 360, which takes about 2 minutes and 42 seconds. And then at 17 minutes and 41 seconds after dispatch, firefighter down is declared. Mayday is declared. We always talk about the first 15 minutes determines the outcome. And so this one was 17 minutes. And so it really is important that we understand that the decisions that are made in that first 15 minutes impact the outcome. And if you don't get it set up right in the beginning, you may have a problem later on.
Yeah. And that even a year and a few months later still resonates with me how fast this thing progressed. I mean, the decision I had based off of the smoke I was seeing, happened, all of this in my mind happened within 2 minutes of starting to walk around the outside of this house. I know there's a crew in, and conditions are getting worse. I mean, it's obvious that the smoke is getting thick, it's under pressure, it's falling out of the house, it's got that nasty, dirty, green, black kind of look to it. And as I come around, I'm having communications with them, and we'll hear this here in a second. They ask for pike poles and flashlights. I confirm, we'll send you pike poles and flashlights. And the interesting thing, and then I think this would be the time to play the audio here in a second. I come back around the front. I'm now back on the A side, and I can see the hose line in the front door, 1 3/4. I can see it jumping. So I know we're applying water and we're stopping. We're applying water and stopping. So I take a step back and I'm looking for steam, right? I'm looking for anything that shows me that we're changing the interior conditions. And I don't see, in fact, not only do I not see it getting better, it continues to get worse. And at that point, I call them on the radio and ask, are you at the seat of the fire? Because I know they're not, or at least whatever they're spraying is not at the seat of the fire, because I've got no steam generation and everything's just continuing to look worse. Their then response to my question was seat of the fire, and it's a little garbled. So I kind of assumed they said, yes, we're at the seat of the fire.
Now,
so
let me pause for a second. Did this, I assume as this fire went from the gutters in, that it went into the attic, or did it go into living spaces?
Again, after we, did the, investigative work afterwards, it was in the attic space over their heads, which is now, after interviews with them, why they were calling for pike poles and flashlights. They said, the 3-person crew that went in said, we walked in standing up, we had light haze in the living space of the house. When we went in the front door, we were standing up because it was you literally could see across the room. They went in, they made a left back toward the side of the house, the B side of the home where they thought the fire was coming from. And that's when they realized must be overhead, and they wanted to start pulling the ceiling. And so they were using the opportunity to call for more pike poles, flashlights, because they felt they were going to have to do a ceiling pull.
And when you saw these changing conditions, Deavron, I'm assuming these changing conditions were in the living space area, not in the attic area. Is that correct?
So from where I was doing my 360, it just, the smoke was coming out of, at the time where the ceiling of the living space and the roof line met. So this was kind of falling out of the eaves, falling out of the ends of the home. And I'm standing here watching this smoke, and it's coming out under pressure and it's falling down. And I'm like, this is not what we want. And so when I see the hose line jumping and water being applied, and I'm asking them, are you guys sure you're at the seat of the fire? Because you're not changing the smoke conditions whatsoever. And so a lot of that's captured on that audio tape. If you want to, I'll raise my hand at the stop point, but if you want to hear some of that traffic, it should go.
Yeah. So if you want me to, and I didn't pre-think this, so I hope when I click the play button, it actually plays. Because I've listened to it before, but I just hope it queues up and plays here. And then when you want me to stop it, go ahead.
The best time to stop it would be after I asked them. They asked me for pike poles and flashlights, and I say, "Yep, pike pole, flashlight." And then the next radio traffic should be something about, "Are you at the seat of the fire?" And then their response is, "Seat of the fire." Stop it there.
Okay.
Report of the house fire at 5114 Mesker Park Drive, 8 engine 8, 8 engine 81, 8 engine 9, 8 rescue 8, 8 tanker 9, 8 Adam 80. Structure fire 5114 Mesker Park Drive, 8 engine 8, 8 engine 1, 8 engine 9, 8 rescue 8, 8 tanker 9, 8 Adam 80. Box number 885.
Dispatch, German's clear on the run.
Clear all units, stack 8.
8 engine 9's en route.
Clear 8 engine 9.
X-ray 38's en route to company 8.
8 engine 9.
Ed.
Getting further calls on this, planes visible from the eaves.
I'm clear. Go ahead and contact the working fire.
Clear.
510 German, we got crew 3 coming your way.
I'm clear on that 5 engine 10.
Go ahead.
Hey, Engine 9's on scene. Clear 8, Engine 9.
Engine 9's on scene. We have a 2-story residential structure. Smoke showing from the attic. Mark this as working fire.
Clear.
Engine 10, when you arrive, pull in the driveway just behind our engine, and we're going to have to stretch a line over this fence.
Company 8's on standby with 1.
German Township, 85 Engine 10, we're about 4 minutes out. I'm clear.
Dispatch 7 Engine 1's en route to the move up.
Clear 7, Engine 1.
Dispatch 5 Engine 10, arriving.
Clear.
8 X-ray 19 establishing command Mesker Park Drive.
Interior command.
Go for command.
We need flashlights or pipe pole and some more flash on the line.
Command's clear, flashlights and pike pole. Be advised, your roof is venting above you.
Interior clear.
Interior from command. Are you at the seat of the fire?
Interior. We found the scene of the fire. It's right above us.
So the audio is paused. It can definitely sense the stress and sense your concern in your voice. We did have one question come in on the Facebook feed, and I'll go ahead and ask it now because it's kind of pertinent to where we're at in the conversation. Was there access to a set of pull-down stairs or anything like that would have given easy access to the attic area?
Unfortunately, there was not. And much to the, I guess, the crew that was inside, not only was there not a pull-down, as they started to work on their ceiling, it was plaster and lath. And so this wasn't even a conventional or modern building construction where you could pull down, nice sheets of sheetrock. When they started their ceiling pull, they realized the work that they had set into themselves as a plaster and lath ceiling was going to be brutal.
And Deavron uses the word brutal, and I'm going to use the word. I'm going to be brutally frank about the members' capabilities here. We do not have a truck company. We don't normally do a lot of truck company work, and so when these guys, there being 3 of them, hit plaster and lath, it is unusual. They are not used to that. And it takes a whole lot more manpower and muscle power in order to tear plaster and lath. And when Deavron asked them, are they at the seat of the fire, and they responded, we found the seat of the fire. That's what they said. They used the word found the seat of the fire. That was not true. They found flames when they opened up the ceiling. They thought that was the seat of the fire. And as we know now, the fire had progressed way beyond the hole that they opened. Mm-hmm. And that part of that is the exterior commander having a good wide-angle view of the situation saw that they are not doing what they say they are doing.
Yeah, and there's actually a really good takeaway, situational awareness takeaway lessons right here. Is just when you're on the nozzle, simply because you see fire doesn't mean you're at the base of the fire. You just see fire, and that was maybe the assumption on their part that ended up, not
the other thing
not being
about
accurate.
This house is we found out during the investigation it had been added onto. I said added onto 5 times.
Wow!
Not remodeled, 5 times. Yeah. So when we look at the attic and the construction and all the different levels of roofs and things like that, that contributed also to the inability for us to get at the seat of the fire.
Yeah. As we found out later, they were actually they went in the A side, they were on the B side, which was probably the oldest portion and the original small little farmhouse that was built originally. So thus the plaster and lath ceiling. That then led everything on the D side and toward the D side, which then became a second story above what was at one time a garage. The garage had been converted into living space with a second living space over the top of it. That was all newer construction. But each one of those had been added on over the years, as John said, you know, over 5 room additions to what was the original little footprint of the home.
So for perspective, where the leaves caught on fire up in the gutters, which side of the house was that on, A, B, C, or D?
I was just going to go there because Deavron mentioned the B side. The B side is where the fire started, in the eaves, in the gutters, and it's also the direction of the wind, which gusted up to 22 miles an hour from the B side towards the D side. So you had fire, and now you got that much wind speed adding to the fire. I mean, we're basically blowing oxygen at the fire, and we got plenty of fuel. And as we know what happened afterwards, a backdraft occurred, and doors were moved, and we'll save that other little secret for a minute. We'll tell you a little bit later.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so in that, in retrospect, that was what was making the decision-making process in general just so accelerated. I start on my 360, and by the time I come back around front, I'm just watching the acceleration of this. And as John mentioned, we found out later, 23-mile-an-hour wind was pushing it directly into, the unburned portion of the home. As I look to the B side, I've got a single-story, conventional, just peaked roof. It then is dovetailed into a 2-story home that's running in the opposite direction. So my fire is pointing, into this unburned portion over here as we come in. So I'm seeing the hose line jump up and down. I'm not seeing steam. I'm asking them, what are we doing, guys? Whatever you're doing is not working, right? And so one of the hardest things for me to do now, kind of picking up and moving the story forward from there, I got to the point mentally where I said, we're done, right? I'm not liking what I'm seeing. You're not putting water on the fire. I'm not seeing the conditions improve. If anything, they're getting worse. I've talked to you about pike poles and flashlights. We've had a discussion about the seat of the fire. And then my next decision, and I mean, I've been on interior, I didn't want to pull them out because I know what you're inside, fighting fire. But I just made the decision, and I said, we're done. Exit the building. We're done. And from the question I asked, are you at the seat of the fire, and their response, I maybe waited not even 30 seconds and said, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm in charge. We're done. Exit the building.
And Deavron, were you what was kind of going through your mind as you were making that decision? Was it one made in confidence, one made with some self-doubt of I'm not sure if I'm making a right call, and I'm not trying to put what was in your mind in there for you, but what kind of things were you thinking? Because that's a tough decision for a commander who has a crew on an aggressive attack to just say, full brakes on and come on out. Because there's a likelihood they're not going to be happy with that. And in fact, they're probably going to say, give us a couple more minutes. We're all, we're making progress kind of thing. We've all been there. So, what's kind of going through your mind as you're getting ready to key that mic and say, this is it. We're giving up the fight here.
Yeah, before Deavron answers that, because I have my iPad over here off screen so I can get the time and some of those facts. So from the time that he started thinking, it's time to get them out, to the time the Mayday was declared was 1 minute and 17 seconds. So from the time he's having those thoughts, he is saying it's not working, it's not looking right, to the time Mayday was declared, and the incident commander declared the Mayday, 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Okay, so
you're right, Rich. What was going through my mind at the time, it was a bunch of things, right? But the one in making the decision to say we're done now was, I guess somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought I'm going to disappoint these guys, right? Because I know they're inside, they're doing what firefighters do, they're putting out fire, but I am no longer comfortable with the situation, right? So what's going on around the outside of the building, or additional resources are showing up. I've got more people. I've got some off-duty firefighters in street clothes who were going to help pump hose and do some different things. And those facts come in important here in a minute. One of them is my younger brother. He's a career firefighter here in Evansville. Was on German Township Fire Department with me. We joined at the same time. I've got Sean standing beside me, another firefighter that was off duty in his street clothes. And I'm looking at all this, 3 people in the building. The situations are getting worse. And I just made the call. I said, we're done, guys. We just come out. In my mind now, I'm saying just come out, and whatever you're doing is not working. It's getting worse. Let's just stop. And my intention was to get them out and say, okay, let's devise a new plan of attack, right? Because whatever you guys are doing, when you tell me you're at the seat of the fire, and I know you're not, I can tell, I'm not happy with the situation anymore.
Yeah. So
let's play the audio.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, let me ask one question. How many people were inside at this point?
Crew of 3.
3 were inside. Okay.
Get away from us.
Hey, that's Nathan, route crew 2.
Clear.
Interior from command, exit the building. Interior from command. Interior from command.
Interior, exit the building. Interior, exit the building.
Interior, exit the building. Interior from command, exit the building.
Interior, exit the building. Interior, exit the building.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. Firefighters down. Mayday.
Clear, firefighters down.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. Firefighters down.
How many down?
Command from 4 Adam 1. Command from 4 Adam 1.
Firefighters down. Firefighters down. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
Dispatch 4 Adam 1.
4 Adam 1.
Any unit that's on standby, send them to the scene.
Clear.
Dispatch, disregard 4 Adam 1 traffic. Update this to a second alarm fire.
Clear.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. I have firefighters down, trapped inside.
Engine 8 on scene.
Central Dispatch, AM2.
Get with traffic for dispatch.
Interior from command, exit the building now.
The Situational Awareness Matters show was launched in 2014 with a purpose: to give a platform to those who have experienced near-miss events to share their stories, like the one you just heard. When I'm on the road delivering classes on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, I often ask to the attendees if any of them have had a near-miss event, and they have shared some amazing stories. It was those stories and the stories like Deavron that motivated me to launch this podcast, so their lessons could be shared with a bigger audience. The Situational Awareness Matters show, podcasted as SAMatters Radio, and our companion video program on the SAMatters TV channel on YouTube, along with other videos that I have posted there, have enjoyed more than 800,000 downloads. I'm really thankful for that support. And I'm really thankful to have a platform to be able to share these amazing stories. If you like the show, please consider subscribing. For the audio version of the show, search SAMatters Radio on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. For the video version, subscribe to SAMatters TV channel on YouTube. And if you find value in the show, I'd really appreciate it if you'd swing by and give it a rating and write a review. Your ratings and reviews help others to find this show.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters.
Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters.
Know your water supply, because SA matters.
Bears and Cougars, SA matters.
Go versus no-go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters.
SA matters. So don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,300 organizations and over 75,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, public transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery process operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environment, then we are here to help improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important mission of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you.
I think Rich's ability to connect with any crowd, that's a gift that he has, and it's easily transferable.
This is the second or third time that I've heard him speak. There's some teeth to the information that he brings.
It's been really good. Good mixes. He knows when to throw in a joke here and there to get you back involved.
Some tools. I'm a new lieutenant, so very, very interesting. And some of these things I can take back to the station and use with some of the new firefighters I have on my crew.
Something to get you thinking about your job more, big picture type stuff. I've seen him before. A good review for sure.
I have heard him before, yes. After he speaks, there's usually an enlightenment because now they're more aware of what's going on around them and what they're experiencing as they respond to calls.
He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying it so far.
And that intuition, that's a big one. The video that you just showed up here, we're getting a lot out of this. I think this is a really good seminar, especially for new people and old. Well, I think it's very informative. This talk gives us more ammunition to do all three.
And they're relatable to what we have experienced or very well could experience, so he makes it easy to let the knowledge sink in.
I mean, it's awesome. A lot of stories you can usually relate to yourself and calls you have been on, aha moment. Like, he just helps you focus on picking out the right things. It's awesome. It's a refresher and keeps my eyes open. It's good stuff.
If people listen to the message that he has, it's an incredible message delivered by a very compassionate person. Strategy and tactics are going to always change. situational awareness it doesn't change. It's always there.
He's got some good stories to tell, and he's very thorough with his stories, and it's interesting listening to him.
Very clear speaker, and he talks on our level because he's been there, he's been in the trenches. I think he's doing well, and I'm looking forward to the second half.
I would like to take a moment to honor and thank the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their team members. Syncrude Canada, Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. Quad County Fire Chiefs Association in Lewiston, Idaho. The Pearland Fire Department in Pearland, Texas. And the Toledo, Ohio Fire Department. If you're interested in where we're going to be next, on January 29th, the Whitecourt Fire Department in Alberta is hosting a live, virtual, internet-based training event where they're going to put all their members in a room, they're going to live stream me in, and I'm going to teach their members for 2 hours on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. February 2 and 3, I'll be at the Missouri Winter Fire School in Columbia, Missouri. February 22nd, at the West Virginia Emergency Services Conference in Pipestem, West Virginia. On February 25th, the International Falls Fire Department in International Falls, Minnesota. On February 26th, the Grand Rapids Fire Department in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. February 27th, the Eveleth Fire Department in Eveleth, Minnesota. And February 28th, the Lutsen Fire Department in Lutsen, Minnesota. March 5 through 7, the Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. March 8th, the Ponderosa Fire Department in Houston, Texas. And March 9th, the Northwest Volunteer Fire Department in Houston, Texas. On March 12th, I'll be presenting for the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. And then wrapping it up on March 25 through April 3, I'll be at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii. Oh, if you're going to be at FDIC in April, look for me there too. I'll be doing a program on Thursday afternoon where I'll be presenting on situational awareness. If you want to see the locations of all the upcoming events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. And if you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage and I'll give you a call. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there's a couple of ways you can do that. Just click the show notes to see how you can get connected through our newsletter membership, podcast subscribers, YouTube subscribers, and how to follow us on the social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 249 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you to our awesome sponsors, Midwest Fire and Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, organizations, and associations that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for your team members. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted a live, virtual, internet-based, streamed into your organization training event. And thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.